listen carefully, take really good notes, and let me help you understand these problems, alright? Number 11. The directions for 11 through 20 say to solve the equation for the indicated variable, okay? So here we go. Problem number 11. We are solving for h, alright? So we're going to go through these steps like always. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 50, okay? Whatever we have to do. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. Nothing I can do. Step 3, simplify again. Nothing I can do. Now, at this point, you are to look for all of the terms we're solving for h. So look at every term that has an h. By the way, all of these are multiplying. So this is one whole term. You can't just move a pi over or move the r over. That is illegal. It is not mathematically accurate. So we have one term here and one term here. Now this term has an h. This term does not. So we're supposed to move all of the terms that have an h to one side and all the other terms to the other side. That's already done for us. So now we divide by whatever we want to get rid of. Well, this pi and this r squared and this h are all multiplying together. So I'm going to divide by pi r squared. But what I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So I'm left with v over pi r squared equals h. There it is. That's all there is to it, students. Okay, let's try another one. Number 12. Okay, we're solving for w. Solving for w, okay? Step 1, simplify both sides. This is an L term. This is a W term. They are unlike terms. You cannot put them together. There's no simplifying over here we can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Step 3, simplify again. There are none. So our next step is to look at all the terms that have a W and get them on one side. Now, I'm going to underline all of the terms that have a W. This one. So I want this term all by itself. Move everything else to the other side. Now this is other side. Now this is one term. You can't just pick up this 2 and move it and make it a negative 2. Okay? You move whole terms. You can't just move part of terms, okay? In other words, in a second, I'm going to move this 2L over. You don't bring the 2 over and make it negative and bring the L over and make it negative, okay? I've never taught you that. You move whole terms. So pick up the 2L. Bring it to the other side. It becomes a negative 2L. So now I have positive P, negative 2L equals 2W. By the way, on this side right here, if you put negative 2L positive P, that is totally acceptable. This is the same as this. Now, next, divide by 2. Divide each term by 2. Divide by 2. Divide by 2. And divide by 2. Okay? Now, P over 2 stays P over 2. A negative over a positive makes the whole fraction become negative. Your 2's cancel, leaving you with L. Over here, your 2's cancel, leaving you with W. Now, that is the answer I want. Look at the answer in the back of the book they would give you. They just said this. Here's what they did. Here's what they did. They divided this side by 2. And they divided this side by 2. And they left it like this. Now, that's accurate. You would not want to cross these 2's off here because you have how many terms up top? I've told you that before. You have 2 terms. Don't do that, okay? However, here's why I don't like this answer. Later on, we're going to start graphing linear equations using the slope-intercept method. And you think back to your freshman year, one of the things you would do is get y by itself, okay? And once you got y by itself, you then knew this number here with the x was your slope, and this number here was your y-intercept. Well, if you did it their way, this problem right here would look like this. X plus 3 all over 2. Well, that's not going to help you graph a linear equation. I have never liked this answer here. Now, if you want to do this, I will give you full credit, but make sure you don't start crossing things off. You shouldn't cross off. I would strongly suggest to you, you divide each term, P, negative 2L, and 2W by 2. Divide each term by 2. That's how I'd recommend you do it, okay? Alright, moving on to number 13. So your answers will look a little different than the back of the book or the answers right here. But sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but that's okay, alright? Okay, step 1, simplify both sides, nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals, nothing I can do. Step 3, I'm solving for R. This is one whole term, this is one whole term. Underline the terms that have an R. This one does. So you want to get all of those terms on. You want to get this term on one side by itself, everything else on the other side. That's done for you. So now we're simply going to divide 2R, or excuse me, 2 pi to get R by itself. So if you do that correctly, these cancel out, leaving you with R right here. Over here we have C over 2 pi. Got it? R equals C over 2 pi. Moving on to number 14. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing I can do. That's in terms of simplifying. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Aha, I do see. It's an aha moment, okay? I see a fraction. The denominator is 3. So I'm going to multiply the entire equation by 1/3, or by 3, excuse me, okay? Now remember, you don't multiply every part. 3 times V, 3 times 1/3, 3 times A, 3 times H. Now, you would do that if it was 1/3 plus A plus H. Then you would have 3 terms. 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. Then you would take 3 times V, 3 times 1/3, 3 times A, 3 times H. You multiply the 3 by every term, but we do not have plus signs or positive signs. These are all multiplying. So this is 1 term right here, okay? So we take 3 times V, and then we take 3 times this term. 3 over 1 times 1 over 3. Your 3's would cancel, leaving you with 1 A H. You do not need the 1. Please don't put that 1. It's definitely a waste of time. So we're just going to put A H. Alright? Now moving on to step 2. Simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step 3. Look for, you're solving for A. So look for all of the terms that have an A. This one does. So you want this term by itself. All the other terms on the other side, that's already done. So next, to get A by itself, we divide by H. So we divide the right side by H, we're left with A. Divide 3V by H, we're left with 3V over H. So there, my young math geniuses, is the answer. 3V over H. Number 15. This looks like a whopper. It'll be a good problem. Step 1, simplify both sides. On the left side, there's no simplifying I can do. However, on the right side, I can simplify. This 1/2 is right next to the parentheses. That means you multiply it through. However, we have a right-hand distribution also. This H is right next to the parentheses. It gets multiplied through. So let's save time and do both at the same time. See this B subscript 1? It gets multiplied by 1/2 and H. So 1/2 H B. Now, see this other B, this B subscript 2 right here. It gets multiplied by this and by this. So 1/2 H times B would be positive 1/2 H B subscript 2. Now, step 2. Eliminate fractions. Well, I have 2 fractions, but thankfully they both have the same denominator, 2 and 2. Okay? So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. Okay? 2. So here we go. 2 times A is 2A. Now when you multiply 2 times this, don't take 2 times 1/2. 2 times H, 2 times B. They're all multiplying. This is 1 term. So 2 over 1 times 1 over 2. Your 2's would cancel, leaving you with 1 HP. Do not put the 1. I mean, you can if you want to, but it's really a waste of time to do that. Then I have 2 times a positive, so I put a positive. Again, this is one term, so you do not take the 2 times h and b, just 2 over 1 times 1 over 2. Your 2's would cancel, leaving you with 1h b squared. That's pretty simple, guys. Now, we're solving for what? B subscript 2. So look for your terms that have a B subscript 2. This is the only one right here. So keep this here, move everything else to the other side. So this positive HB becomes negative HB. So now I have 2A negative HB subscript 1 equals HB subscript 2. Now, next step, simplify both sides. Well, this is an A term. This is an HB term. There's no way they're like terms. I cannot combine those. So there's no simplifying I can do. So lastly, divide each side by h. Now the answer up here, they're probably going to divide. No, they didn't actually. So they're being a little inconsistent. Back here on this problem here, they divide the entire side by 2. Here, they divided each term by h. So I'm not sure why, but we're going to do it the way I've taught you, which is divide this term by h, divide this term by h, divide this term by h, okay? So you're left with, here's your equal sign. On the right side, these cancel, leaving you with b subscript 2. Now look at this term. You have a negative. Now if this was a negative here, a negative over a negative would make the whole fraction become positive. Always watch your signs. But we have a negative divided by a positive. That makes the whole fraction negative. Your h's cancel, leaving you with b subscript 1. Over here, nothing cancels out. So we have 2a over h. And that is, thankfully, the identical answer up here. Moving on to number 16. Number 16. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Step 3, look at what you're solving for, L, and move all of those terms to one side. Well, this term here has an L, this term here has an L, so we move all of those to this side here. Okay? And that's already done. Everything else on the other side, so we're fine. Now, next step, and this is where factoring comes in. In all of the other problems we've done, let's really look at this, okay? In all of the other problems that we've done. Okay, students, I had to pause the video. I'm back now. In all the other problems we've done, when you divided, you had one H term. When you divided, you had one W term. When you divided, you had one R, or one term with an R. When you divided right here, you had one term with an H. When you divided here, right here, when you divided, you had one term with an H. Or with a, I'm sorry, with a B. I apologize. Let me back up, guys. I'm sorry. I want to get this right. When you divided here, you had one term with an H. When you divided right here, you had one term with a W. When you divided here, you had one term with an R. When you divided here, you had one term with an A. When you divided right here, you had one term with a B subscript 2. When you divide here, you've got two terms with the letter L. So this is where factoring comes in. Pull out the L, and you're left with 1 minus R. Now some of you just passed out probably. Where'd this come from? Okay, well look. What you're doing is this. You're saying to yourself, if I pull an L out, what would I put right here to get an L back up here? In other words, put a blank here. L times what would give me an L? Well, it's 1, obviously. L times 1. Okay, very good. L times blank. L times blank would give me negative RL. Well, think about it. That's got to be a negative R, because L times negative R gives you negative RL. So there, you pulled out an L. Now you're ready to divide, okay? We're going to divide both sides by 1 minus R. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side, okay? So your final answer would be S over, and if you want to keep the parentheses, you can. You don't have to. 1 minus R equals, these would cancel out, leaving you with L, okay? Pretty tough problem, but a good problem nonetheless. Number 17. We're going to solve this for F. And this is interesting. This is the formula here for converting Fahrenheit to Celsius. But if I wanted to convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, I would have to get F by itself. So here we go. Let's solve this for F. Step 1, simplify both sides. So take your 5/9 and multiply it through. 5/9 times F would be 5/9 F. 5/9 times negative 32 would be negative 160 over 9. Now if you're weak with your fractions, use a calculator. Put the 32 over 1. 5 times 32 is 160. 9 times 1 is 9. Okay? Alright. Step 2, eliminate fractions. Well, thankfully, both of my denominators are 9. So take your 9 and multiply it through. 9 times C is 9C. 9 over 1 times 5 over 9. Your 9's would cancel, leaving you with 5 over 1, or 5. And of course there's an F with it. 9 over 1 times 160 over 9. Your 9's would cancel, leaving you with 160 over 1, or just 160, negative 160. Now, next step, you're solving for F, so underline all the terms that have an F. This one. So bring the 160 over, so all of your F terms are on one side. So 9C plus 160 equals 5F. And now simply divide everything by 5. So 9 divided by 5 would be, you could put 9/5 C. That's totally acceptable. Or you're more than welcome to put 9C over 5. I have no preference. Plus 160 divided by 5 is 32. And if you divide this by 5, you're left with F. Okay? So divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, and there is your answer. They have 9/5 C. We have 9C over 5. It's the exact same thing. Alright, number 18. Step 1, simplify both sides. There's nothing I can do to either side. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There's nothing I can do. Step 3, we're solving for C. Underline all of your terms with the C. There it is. Now it's a negative C, so be careful. Make sure you keep that negative sign with your C, okay? So, no other terms have a C. I want to get all of my terms that have a C on one side, all of my other terms on the other side. So bring the R over, and the R becomes negative. And you're left with negative C. Now remember, what's really in front of the C? A negative 1, correct? If it's a negative sign, it's a negative 1. So to get C by itself, we're now going to divide every term by negative 1. Okay? So, a positive divided by a negative is negative, and P over 1 is P. Let's go over that again. A positive divided by a negative is negative. P divided by 1 is P. A negative divided by a negative is positive, and R over 1 is R. And then a negative divided by a negative, they cancel, leaving you with C. And the answer is, they probably have R minus P. We have negative P plus R. Exact same thing. Your R is positive, your R is positive, your P is negative, your P is negative. Everything's the same. But I want to go back up to this step here. So there's your answer. That's acceptable. Or you can put the R first, as long as you keep it positive. Put the P second, as long as you keep it negative. And that is also an acceptable answer. But I want to come back up here when we had P, negative R equals negative C. If you don't like dividing by a negative 1, no problem. Bring the C over here and it becomes positive. Bring the P over here and it becomes negative. Bring the R over and it becomes positive. Okay? That's a fast way to do it if you like that better. Okay? Divide by a negative 1 or just move the terms around. Either way is fine. Alright, moving on to number 19. Okay, step 1, simplify both sides. There's no simplifying at all. By the way, if you see a P right here and a P right here and think you can put these two terms together, they're not identical. This is a P term. This is a PRT term. Terms are recognized by their variables. This is an A term. These two terms over here are not the same, so we cannot simplify. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Step 3, we're solving for P, so underline all of your terms that have a P. There they are. Get all those on one side, everything else on the other side. That's already done for you. So now we're ready to divide, but hold it. In all your other problems except one, we always had one term here. We have two terms, so we're going to have to first factor out the P, remember? back here in the last problem, when we divided, we had one term with a C. Here, when we divided right here, we had one term with an F, one term right here. Here, when we divided right here, we had two terms with an L, so we had to factor first, okay? So, pull out a P, and here's what we're left with. P times blank would give you P. Well, P times 1. P times blank would give you PRT. Well, that would be RT, because P times RT is PRT. And now I'm ready to divide. Divide both sides by 1 plus RT. Alright? Divide that by one side. Also divide it over here on the other side. There we go. So we divide both sides by 1 plus RT. Over here they cancel, leaving you with P. Over here we have A over 1 plus RT. And that is your answer. Okay, moving on to number 20. Step 1, simplify both sides. Well, I can definitely simplify the right side. Take your P and multiply it through. Now I've got to be careful here. Hold on a second. I just said something that's incorrect, and I apologize. This is going to be a very, very difficult problem, but that's why we have homework help videos. Do you see what I'm saying? That's why we do this, so that you can get help on these really, really difficult problems. Now, let me drop down here and ask you to totally forget this problem for a second, okay? And watch down here. Just forget this problem, okay? Forget it for a second. Look down here. If I had a 2, and then a 1 plus 3, and then a 2 right here, like this, I've got a P, then 2 terms, then an exponent. Well, same thing down here. I've got a number, 2 terms, exponent. Would you take this 2 and multiply it through first? You know you would not do that. You would first add 1 plus 3, and you would get what? 4. Then you would square the 4, and you would have 2 times what? 16. You would not multiply the 2, and then you would have 32. There's no way you'd multiply the 2 through. You would have this. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Add those two together. 8. 8 squared is 64. That's a different answer. So usually you're going to use your distributive property, but in this problem here, you cannot multiply the P through because there's an exponent right here. You cannot do it. So there's no simplifying on the left side to do, and there's no simplifying on the right side to do. Do you see why? Look at this again. If I had this problem right here, you know you would not first multiply the 2 through. That gives you a wrong answer. I showed that to you. So same thing with variables. You can't just multiply this P through and put P plus PR to the T power. P times 1 is P. P times PR is PR. You can't do that because of this exponent right here. So what are we going to do? Well, first of all, there's no step. What we're gonna do is we're gonna use our steps like we're supposed to. Step 1, there's no simplifying you can do. Step 2, there's no fractions or decimals. Step 3, I'm looking for all the terms that have a P. Well, I'm viewing this whole thing as one term, even though I have a plus sign here. Watch why. See this dot right here? See these parentheses? It kind of pulls these two things together. I really have P times this whole expression here. So I'm going to look at that as one term, and I'm simply going to do this. I'm going to divide by 1 plus R to the T power. Look at that. Makes sense. That'll get P all by itself. 1 plus R to the T power. So here they cancel, leaving you with P. Over here I have A over, and you definitely need the parentheses over here because this power of T. There we go. That is the answer. Not a lot of steps, but it's a little challenging in how to do that, okay? Alright, last 3 problems. They first of all want us to solve for a variable and then make substitutions. So let me help you with this. Okay, here we go. So the directions say to solve the formula for the indicated variable, then evaluate for the given values. Now if that sounds confusing, please watch. Step 1, we're going to do what? Solve for P. So here's your formula, or your equation, whatever you want to call it. Step 1, simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals, nothing I can do. Step 3, what are we solving for? P. So underline all the terms that have a P. This term does not have a P, but this term does have a P. Get all of those on one side, everything else on the other side. That's done for you. So now we're going to divide by 2 pi w to get P by itself. What you do to one side, you must do to the other side. So A over 2 pi w equals P. There, step 1, or not step 1, part 1 is done. Now, take this formula. Now they want us to put these numbers in and solve for P. So they're telling you capital A is 22. See it? Capital A is 22. So where A is, I'm going to put 22. W is 2. Here's my W. So I have 2 times, we're going to put 3.14 for pi, times W, which is 2. This is a huge calculator problem, guys. Break out your calculators. 22 over 12.56, because 2 times 3.14 is 6.28, and 6.28 times 2 is 12.56. Now with your calculators, simply take 22 divided by 12.56, and you will get approximately rounded 1.8 centimeters. I know it's centimeters because everything was in centimeters. Let's try a couple more of these, okay? Number 22. First of all, they want us to solve for h, okay? We're going to solve for h. So there we are, okay? So, step 1, simplify both sides. There's definitely no simplifying that I can do, okay? These two terms over here are not identical. This is a pi r h term. This is a pi r squared term. Nothing I can do. And actually, pi is not a variable. I should not have said pi. Pi is not a variable. Pi is a number. This is an RH term, and this is an r squared term. Step 2, eliminate fractions and decimals. There are none. Step 3, we're solving for h. So underline all of your h terms. There it is. Move all the other terms to the other side. So s minus 2 pi r squared equals 2 pi r h. Simplify both sides, nothing I can do. Divide both sides by 2 pi r. I'm gonna skip writing all that, okay? If you divide this side by 2 pi r, you're left with h. I'm gonna write it over here so you can see it. Now this here's a little tricky, okay? Here, if you divide this term by 2 pi r, negative divided by a positive is negative. 2's cancel, pi cancel. Now be careful. It's r squared is like having r, okay? R times r. So if you cross off these r's here, you're left with 1 r up top. So r over 1, or just r. Do you see it okay? R squared is the same thing as having r times r. Now cross off 2 of your r's and you're left with an r. And then bring down your s. Man, that was easy. That was pretty simple. So, h equals, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not done at all. I apologize. So I have negative r. Now I've got to divide s by 2 pi r. So s divided by 2 pi r. There we go. Okay. Now let's see what they want us to solve for h. So there's this part of the problem's done. There's my answer. Each of these problems have 2 answers. Okay. 2 answers for number 21. 2 answers for number 22. There's the first answer. Now let's get a numerical answer. S equals 105. So where the s is right here, I'm going to put 105. In the denominator, I'm going to put 2 times 3.14 times r. And r is 3. That's one big fraction minus 3 equals h. Alright, let's get us some room to work. There we go, and there we go, and there we go. Now, with your calculator, I'm going to go ahead and multiply. Let's see, 2 times 3.4 times 3 would be 684. I think 18.84. I did that in my head. I think that's correct. 624, 8. Yes. 18.84. So 105 over 18.84 minus 3. Now with your calculator, type in 105 divided by 18.84. I'm grabbing my calculator now very quickly. to number 23. Last one, and we're finally done. All right, step one, we're going to solve for r. So here's my formula. P equals 2 pi r plus 2x. All right, now, step one, simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Step two, eliminate fractions and decimals. Nothing I can do. Step three, I'm solving for r, so underline any term that has an r. This one does. All the other terms go to the other side. So p negative 2x equals 2 pi r. Okay? Now, next we want to simplify both sides. Nothing I can do. Now lastly, if I'm solving for r, I've got to divide everything by 2 pi to get r by itself. Alright? So here we go. On the right side, I'm left with r. Over here, now watch, negative over positive is negative. Your 2's cancel, leaving you with x over pi. And then p over 2 pi is simply p over 2 pi. Now, that's one answer. We're done with that part of the problem, okay? That's one answer. Now let's take this and do some more work with it, okay? So, where the p is, p equals, if you look in your book, you'll see p equals 75. So for this p right here, I'm going to put 75. For the denominator, I'm going to skip a step. I'm going to put 6.28. Now you know where I got that, don't you? 2 times pi. Pi is 3.14. So 2 times 3.14, 6.28. Then minus or negative x. If you look in your book, x is 20 over pi 3.14 equals r. Now, real quick with your calculator, I mean, you could try to get a common denominator, but I would just take 75 divided by 6.28, and you would get 11.9427. Now, where you round is up to you, okay? Over here, I have 20 divided by, what is it, 3.14. And you'll get 6.3694. 3.3694 equals r. Okay, so let's subtract, 6.3694. Now let's subtract these two numbers, and we will get 5.57. And I think everything was in feet. So 5.57 feet would be r, or the radius of that picture, okay? And let's see, the back of the book has 5.6, which is the same thing, so no problem there. Okay, guys, I hope that this homework help video has been a help to you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to call or email.